Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you thought you knew about attraction, love, and relationships suddenly feels entirely upside down. The rules that you followed for years, the rules that you thought would make you loved, cherished, and respected, no longer seem to apply. You've been giving everything you have to the relationship, your time, your energy, your devotion. You've been perfect, attentive, always there for her. But now something feels different. You spent years believing that to keep someone's attention, you must be the perfect partner, always available, always attentive, always giving. You were told that love meant being constantly present, sacrificing your own needs, and putting her above everything else. But now you're beginning to wonder if that's the right approach. What if everything you believed about relationships was wrong? What if being perfect, always there, always supportive, always available, wasn't the key to keeping someone's interest? What if instead all these things were leading to the opposite of what you intended? Here's the painful truth. The more you give, the more you risk losing her. Availability breeds complacency. And once you are always available, you are no longer intriguing or valuable. It's a difficult reality to confront, but it's the truth about attraction. When you put all your time and energy into someone, making yourself endlessly accessible, you diminish the mystery that initially drew them to you. But what does mystery have to do with love and attraction? You may have heard the advice that women love a challenge. It's not just about playing games. It's about the scarcity of attention and availability that fuels desire. Women, just like men, crave what they can't easily obtain. They want to chase. The more you offer your attention freely and consistently, the more you lose that element of the chase, the very thing that sustains attraction. Let's take a deeper look at scarcity. Scarcity doesn't mean neglecting your partner or playing emotional games. It doesn't mean being unavailable for the sake of drama. Instead, it's about creating a life where you are whole, where you have your own ambitions, your own goals, and your own sense of purpose that doesn't depend on her or anyone else. Scarcity is rooted in independence. When you're constantly at someone's beck and call, you lose the very element of desire that keeps the relationship exciting. Desire is not a static thing. It's constantly evolving. The more you give, the more you demand her attention, the less she has to work for it, and ultimately, the less she feels compelled to chase it. Scarcity creates the mystery that makes someone interested. Without it, desire fades. You may be wondering why your perfect partner is pulling away after all the effort you've put in. The reason is simple. Predictability kills attraction. If someone knows exactly what to expect from you all the time, that certainty can take the excitement out of the relationship. Without that spark of uncertainty, the desire slowly diminishes. Here's a difficult truth you need to hear. Love does not equal giving everything you have. Real love, the kind that sustains and deepens attraction, requires balance. It's about keeping yourself as a mystery, a figure that isn't fully known. When you stop offering all your attention and all your time, when you start pursuing your own goals and passions, you become more valuable. The woman will start to realize she has to work to win your attention, and when that happens, she will desire it even more. The central idea of attraction, as discussed, revolves around mystery and the scarcity of attention. But what exactly is it about mystery that makes us desire someone more? Why do we gravitate toward people who are not entirely open or available, who don't reveal everything at once? Mystery isn't about creating confusion or being emotionally distant. It's about maintaining a sense of intrigue and curiosity. When a woman feels that there's more to discover about you, that she doesn't have you entirely figured out, she is compelled to invest more. She will be more inclined to engage with you, to chase you because you are not easily attainable. Mystery fuels the chase, and the chase fuels desire. The concept of desire is rooted in this unresolved tension, the sense that something has yet to be revealed. If she knows everything about you, there is nothing left to discover, and without that emotional tension, the attraction begins to fade. But how does a man maintain mystery without playing games? The key is in creating a life of value that is centered around your own passions, pursuits, and goals. A man who is emotionally independent, who has his own identity, who doesn't rely on his partner to define him, is inherently mysterious. Why? Because he's not emotionally desperate for her approval or attention. His world does not revolve around her, and this sense of self-sufficiency creates a natural aura of mystery. This doesn't mean you withdraw emotionally or neglect her needs. Instead, you create a dynamic where you are emotionally centered and you have a life outside of the relationship. When you are involved in other pursuits, whether it's work, hobbies, or personal growth, you maintain a sense of mystery because you are not giving all of yourself away. You remain an unpredictable presence in her life, and that unpredictability sparks curiosity. The most attractive men are those who are not desperate for validation. They don't need to prove anything to anyone. They know who they are, and their life reflects that confidence. When you have a full, dynamic life, one that doesn't revolve around a woman's approval, you create the kind of magnetism that draws people in without even trying. The mystery of your life becomes what keeps the desire alive. She doesn't know all your thoughts, your desires, your plans. She feels there is more to you, and that is what excites her. Scarcity of emotional availability feeds this intrigue. When she feels that she has to win your attention, when she knows you have your own world to navigate, she will begin to invest more emotionally. Let's take a deeper dive into emotional control and how it contributes to maintaining attraction. Women are naturally drawn to men who maintain emotional control, who can weather emotional storms without being swept away. Why is emotional control so important in relationships? Imagine a man who is always reactive, who loses his temper at the slightest provocation, or who falls apart emotionally when things don't go his way. Now imagine a man who remains calm, composed, and steady, even in the face of difficulties. Which man do you think is more attractive? Emotional control is a sign of strength, not weakness. It's about being able to lead emotionally, to maintain your emotional state without being swayed by external factors. Women find this emotional strength incredibly attractive because it signals that you are secure in yourself, that you can handle difficult situations without falling apart. It shows resilience, and resilience is the cornerstone of lasting attraction. A man who can lead emotionally doesn't just control his emotions for his benefit, he also leads his relationship. When things go wrong, he doesn't crumble. Instead, he provides a sense of stability, and this sense of stability makes him desirable. This doesn't mean you shut down your emotions or become an emotional robot. Instead, it means you understand your emotions and don't let them dictate your actions. You don't act out of fear or desperation. You act with purpose, with clarity, and with intent. And when you do this, you project a sense of self-control that makes women feel safe, valued, and emotionally secure with you. Moreover, emotional control also means understanding how to create balance in your emotional responses. You don't need to constantly reassure her or beg for her validation. Instead, you maintain your emotional frame, and this allows you to keep the relationship in a healthy balance. When you can lead emotionally, you also maintain a sense of mystery. You don't give everything away immediately. You let her get to know you gradually, creating a sense of intrigue and desire. It's the emotional leadership that keeps the attraction strong, even in long-term relationships. At the core of lasting attraction is a concept that many overlook: maintaining your masculine frame. The masculine frame is essentially your emotional state, identity, and presence. It's the ability to stay centered and composed, no matter what happens in the relationship. It's your ability to lead, to stay strong in your emotional center, and to project your strength without needing to seek validation from others. When a man loses his frame, when he becomes reactive, emotional, or starts shifting his beliefs or actions based on external circumstances, he loses value in a woman's eyes. Attraction is tied to emotional stability, and when you become emotionally unstable or dependent on her, you undermine your own worth. Let's take a moment to think about why this happens. Women by nature are attracted to strength, and emotional strength is one of the most important qualities that define this strength. The man who can weather emotional storms, the man who can navigate difficulties without falling apart, is always more attractive than the one who is constantly in need of reassurance. So what is the masculine frame? It's the ability to stand firm in who you are and not be swayed by external pressures or emotional ups and downs. The man who maintains his frame is not easily manipulated by a woman's emotions or by the challenges of the relationship. He's secure in his identity and isn't looking to be validated by her or anyone else. This type of emotional resilience is incredibly attractive because it signals to a woman that you are someone who can lead the relationship emotionally. In the same way that a strong leader can inspire his team, the man who maintains his emotional frame can lead his relationship. He is not reactive or overly emotional. Instead, he is the rock that keeps things stable. This emotional resilience allows him to handle tough situations with grace, without falling into emotional extremes. Now let's talk about why emotional resilience is crucial. In a relationship, emotional turbulence is inevitable. There will be disagreements, misunderstandings, and challenges. But the man who can keep his emotions in check during these moments, not in a cold, detached way, but with emotional maturity, will continue to build respect and attraction. Imagine you're in an argument with your partner. The old way of thinking might be to fight back, to prove your point at all costs, or to defend your ego. But a man who maintains his emotional frame understands that his emotional state will dictate how the argument unfolds. He doesn't let his emotions lead him to say something he'll regret or react in anger. Instead, he stays calm, centered, and leads the conversation toward a resolution. A man who can do this not only projects strength, but he also gives her a sense of security. A woman needs to feel safe emotionally in a relationship, and a man who is emotionally resilient provides that safety. Emotional resilience doesn't mean shutting off your emotions. It means managing them in a way that doesn't undermine your strength or your partner's sense of security. Moreover, emotional control and resilience extend beyond arguments. A man who can maintain his emotional frame is more likely to maintain desire because he's never desperate for approval. He never seems overwhelmed by the relationship. Instead, he can balance his desires and his life, and as a result, he's a more attractive partner. When you are emotionally resilient, you demonstrate emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is the foundation of lasting attraction. It allows the relationship to thrive as both partners respect each other and feel secure in their bond. Now, emotional resilience isn't about being stoic or cold. It's about having the mental strength to deal with life's ups and downs without allowing them to dictate your emotional state. It's about maintaining your center and strength, especially when things aren't perfect. Women are naturally attracted to men who show resilience in the face of adversity. They are drawn to men who can stand tall through challenges and lead through them. When we talk about maintaining the masculine frame, we're also talking about self-leadership. Self-leadership is the ability to lead yourself emotionally, mentally, and even physically. It's about taking responsibility for your emotions, actions, and decisions. A man who leads himself is a man who holds himself accountable. This kind of self-leadership is especially powerful in relationships. A man who takes responsibility for his emotions and actions, who doesn't rely on external validation or need constant reassurance, is attractive because he demonstrates control and strength. This also means you don't fall into patterns of people-pleasing behavior or become overly dependent on your partner for emotional fulfillment. A man who is self-led doesn't bend to others' expectations. He stays true to who he is and continues to grow, improve, and develop as an individual. Women are drawn to men who have direction in their lives, who are committed to their own growth and success. This is what makes a man magnetic, his ability to stay emotionally centered while pursuing his own passions. Self-leadership is the key to lasting attraction. It shows a woman that you are a man who can create value in your life and in the relationship. It shows that you are secure in who you are and do not depend on anyone for validation or emotional support. When you can lead yourself, you also lead the relationship. You set the tone and the emotional dynamics of the relationship. And the more emotionally resilient and centered you are, the more likely you are to maintain respect and desire. Now let's take a deeper dive into the concept of emotional independence and why it is so crucial in relationships. At the core of emotional independence is the ability to maintain self-worth without needing constant validation from your partner. A man who is emotionally independent does not rely on his partner to define his worth or dictate his emotions. He has a sense of self that is grounded in who he is, not in who his partner thinks he should be. Emotional independence doesn't mean being emotionally unavailable or distant. It simply means that your emotions and sense of self-worth don't depend on anyone else. You are secure in who you are, and you have a life that doesn't revolve around your partner. Your emotional state is not dictated by how she feels or how much attention she gives you. Instead, you are focused on building your own life, your own dreams, goals, and aspirations. So why is this so attractive? Why do women respond to men who are emotionally independent? It's because emotional independence is magnetic. It signals to a woman that you are a man who is secure in himself. You are not dependent on her for your happiness or validation, and this creates an aura of strength. Women are naturally drawn to men who are self-sufficient emotionally, because it shows maturity and confidence. But emotional independence also means that you have boundaries. You know where you end and where the relationship begins. You don't lose yourself in the relationship. You are emotionally centered, and you bring that strength into the relationship. You create a dynamic where both partners can flourish without losing their individuality. The benefits of emotional independence in a relationship are profound. When you are emotionally independent, you're not constantly seeking approval or validation from your partner. This means you can engage in the relationship without emotional attachment to outcomes. You don't become desperate for her attention, approval, or love. This emotional freedom allows you to engage with her from a place of strength and balance. You can enjoy the relationship for what it is, without constantly feeling the need to control it or prove something to her. You no longer worry about losing her because you know that your worth is not defined by her. Being emotionally independent also means that you can give her the space she needs. You are not emotionally dependent on her to fill your needs or make you feel validated. This space creates a dynamic where both partners feel emotionally free. And that freedom is what allows the relationship to flourish. Attraction in relationships is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing cycle that requires continuous nourishment. This cycle is dynamic, evolving over time and constantly requiring you to maintain your emotional center and resilience. The idea that attraction will remain steady and unchanged once it's established is a dangerous myth. Instead, you must recognize that desire, like any powerful force, needs to be consistently fed to sustain its strength. Why does attraction fade in many relationships? The answer lies in emotional resilience. Over time, as people become comfortable in a relationship, they begin to take each other for granted. The mystery starts to dissipate, and the dynamic shifts from a thriving, passionate connection to a more predictable and comfortable state. While comfort is important in a relationship, too much of it can lead to indifference. When this happens, the attraction begins to fade. One of the most important factors in keeping the attraction alive is the concept of emotional resilience. It's the ability to maintain your emotional state without being tossed around by the ups and downs of life. It's about staying centered, staying grounded and maintaining self-worth, even when the circumstances of life or the relationship become difficult. When a man can navigate the turbulence of life without losing his emotional control, he becomes more attractive. Resilience is a sign of strength, and strength is undeniably attractive. Women are naturally drawn to men who are able to remain calm, composed, and steady in the face of adversity. However, emotional resilience isn't just about controlling your emotions. It's about handling adversity with grace and purpose. Life is full of challenges, both in relationships and outside of them. A man who is emotionally resilient doesn't avoid difficulties, he faces them head-on. He doesn't break down in the face of stress, but rather uses it as an opportunity to grow, learn, and evolve. Emotional resilience doesn't just keep the relationship intact, it enhances attraction because it signals a deep sense of self-confidence and stability. When a man can face adversity with emotional control, it becomes a cornerstone of attraction. Women admire a man who is not easily rattled, who doesn't let life's challenges undermine his emotional state. This level of emotional control doesn't come from suppressing your feelings or bottling up your emotions. Instead, it comes from understanding and managing them. A resilient man knows when to step back, when to engage, and when to give his partner the emotional space she needs. He doesn't take things personally, and he doesn't panic when things aren't going according to plan. His ability to stay emotionally steady in the face of adversity makes him a rock for his partner, a source of security. But emotional resilience isn't just important when things are difficult. It's equally important in routine life. If you become too predictable, too comfortable, your partner may begin to lose interest. Attraction thrives on unpredictability. This doesn't mean playing emotional games or pretending to be someone you're not. It means that your life should be full of purpose, growth, and momentum. When you're emotionally resilient, your life continues to evolve. You don't stagnate or settle into a predictable routine. You remain dynamic, interesting, and valuable because you continue to grow as a person. One of the key elements to sustaining attraction and desire in any relationship is the ability to create and manage healthy tension. Tension is a vital element of emotional attraction. Without it, relationships become predictable and attraction fades. But what exactly is healthy tension? And how do you maintain it in a way that strengthens the relationship rather than harming it? Healthy tension in a relationship is the space between two people, emotional space that allows for curiosity, growth, and individuality. It's the opposite of codependency, where one partner depends too much on the other for emotional fulfillment. Healthy tension is what allows both partners to remain intrigued by each other. It's the dynamic where each person can still surprise the other, where there's room for growth and discovery. It's what keeps the relationship fresh and exciting. Healthy tension exists when there is an emotional and psychological gap between two people, a gap that invites both partners to continue pursuing each other. This tension is not about conflict, drama, or manipulation. It's about creating a space where each person can retain their own individuality and sense of self while still being connected. Why is healthy tension so important in relationships? Because without tension, there's no desire. Desire thrives in uncertainty, in the unknown, in the pursuit of something that isn't completely accessible. When you're constantly available, when you give everything away too soon, you kill the mystery that fuels attraction. A healthy relationship is not about clinging to each other all the time. It's about choosing each other. It's about both partners continuing to grow individually while still maintaining a strong emotional connection. Healthy tension allows for individuality, and individuality is what makes you intriguing and valuable. Now that we understand how tension works in relationships, let's discuss the role of emotional control in leading the relationship. Emotional control and leadership go hand in hand. A man who maintains his emotional center is a man who can lead the relationship in a way that is both healthy and thriving. He doesn't bend to his partner's emotions. Instead, he stays steady and strong, providing emotional guidance when necessary. Emotional leadership in relationships doesn't mean being emotionally distant or unavailable. It means that you maintain control over your emotions, and through that control, you provide a sense of stability for your partner. Women are naturally drawn to men who lead emotionally. They want a man who can guide them through challenges, who can handle stress with grace, and who can provide emotional security when times get tough. But emotional leadership isn't just about managing tough situations. It's also about creating emotional connection. A man who is emotionally in tune with his partner can sense when she needs reassurance, when she needs space, and when she needs emotional support. He's not emotionally blind. He's just centered enough to not let his own emotions interfere with the relationship's flow. Leadership in relationships also means creating balance. You are the emotional anchor, but you also allow her to express her feelings and needs. Emotional control allows you to engage with her on a deeper level without becoming overwhelmed by your emotions. This creates a relationship where both partners are free to be themselves but still support and love each other.